Hello, everybody. And today I am welcoming my good friend, Kelly Siegel, to the show. Kelly is someone who I have great admiration for. He had a very rough childhood, grew up in a tough neighborhood in Detroit, suffered through a childhood of violence, abuse, and dysfunction, battled addiction, and now owns a very highly successful IT company and has devoted his life to giving back with a passion project, his podcast, which is called Harder Than Life. He's written a fantastic book on the topic. And I think he is one of the most selfless people that I have ever met. Kelly is really free with the I love yous, and I love him. And I know you're going to love his story. Here is Kelly to sit with us for a while this morning. Kelly, is there
Yeah.
anything else we should know about you besides what I just said?
Other than I'm about to cry, I'm very sensitive with the small things in life. Somebody touches my heart and you just touched my heart and soul, and the feelings are very mutual. Your loving energy just exudes off of you. When I got to meet you in New York, I just knew right away that you were going to be my life for a long time. And I'm very honored to be here. I love the podcast. I love the platform. And our group is just amazing. I always laugh. We've all seen those t-shirts that says, I'm so bad, I vacation in Detroit. I got to lighten the mood a little bit because that was a good intro. Thank you, Mitzi. I love you.
Before we get into your life story, I want to start with this question. I'm going to hold up the book for people who are able to see. You said that you wrote this book for little Kelly. What did you mean?
I heard our mutual friend Heather Monahan say that we write books for what we needed as a child. And there were so many things happening. I got the idea of doing this years ago. I had hired an employee who had a book, and I read his book to get to know him better. And it really helped me understand where he was coming from. And he was a very amazing, productive, and good teammate for years. And I said, "Ah, if he wrote that, I should write a book." And then just you shelved it and didn't think about it and didn't worry about it. And then the pandemic hit, and I had all this free time. And I said, I'm going to write a book because when I was telling somebody the story about my life and I heard it out loud, it sounded like a freaking novel. Like that really happened. And so we write books to help our younger inner child that needed the most help. And really for me, I had to get this stuff out of my subconscious, really. And literally, there were so many things down buried in my subconscious. I had to call my sister, who's 9 years older than me, and keep asking questions. And that's all you remember? It was 100 times worse because she was 9 years older, but she could see things. And there were certain things that I just blocked out of my subconscious that were just too painful. And after I wrote the book, when you're writing, there's certain things you forget. It was very cathartic and to get it off my chest for the longest time when I had to proofread it, I couldn't make it through the book because I'd start crying. I didn't write it for that to make people feel sorry for me. I wanted people to realize that, hey, here is someone who all the odds are stacked against me. And through a lot of blessings, there's definitely some higher power looking after me, but through determination, hard work, grit, and really just being intentional about everything you do and making really what we call harder than life choices, which really don't. The next book I think I'm going to call easier than life because once you get on the positive momentum train, it's almost impossible to get off, which is the same reverse for negative. We
Yeah.
call it the proverbial hamster wheel. You're on the same old, I'm on the same old, someness winning. But it came with, I've had enough. Chapter one, self awareness. I've had enough with this life. It's me that's doing this. I looked in the mirror and just said, enough is enough. We're going to make changes. And I made massive changes. And so it was to show people that, hey, man, you're not alone. That was the number one thing. It's embarrassing to tell people I was almost drowned by my parents. There's so much more that I had forgotten that this opened up. So it was very healing.
Yeah.
So I hope that when people read it, they realize that there's going to be parts that they've hidden. I always say vulnerability is cool. You sit there and say, I throw out the I love yous just because we're vulnerable. You and I have these amazing conversations where we're vulnerable and we say the truth and we know it's safe. And people need to realize that being vulnerable, it may not be safe, but you'll know if it's not safe. That person doesn't make you feel safe or uses that against you, you got to get rid of for your life. So it's
Yeah.
a double-edged sword where it works. Both sides will work for you. Whereas if you say something utterly embarrassing about yourself that happened that you had no control over, and someone loves and cares for you, that's a person that needs to stay in your life. Like you, and then if they make fun of you, then you just know it's somebody that you got to get rid of. And that's being intentional with your choices and saying, this person is not good for me. See you. You ain't got to go home, but you got to leave here. And I don't have any time or space for you. And unfortunately, that's part of the negative hamster wheels. We keep negative people in our lives.
Yeah,
So
but you seem to be good at making those boundaries. Like, a lot of people feel bad about ending relationships that they know are not serving.
see, let's be honest, I feel bad. You have to
But
have
you have a way of, you have a thicker skin maybe.
that were true and make it look that way.
Okay.
I have discerned through many friendships in the last couple of months and in the last couple of weeks. And it's not easy. These are people that have been with me for thick or thin, but every time I get around them, I'm negative. I feel
Mm,
horrible. We're talking about people. And that was the text message I just got from our mutual friend, Craig. He's, hey, just want to let you know, Alessia and I love you. Be intentional today and don't allow negativity in your life, because sometimes I do let it happen and I just can't be around it anymore. And
yeah,
so I'm very strong. It's very weird because I don't negotiate with myself. So if it's something for me personally, no problem. But I still, it's something I'm working on. I still allow people in my life that probably aren't good for me. Lot less. But so it is a work in progress. I am not perfect and I make it look a lot easier than it is. That's through my daily self care routine that I don't ever miss. So hopefully that answered your question. You're picking the familiar misery over the unfamiliar or uncomfortable happiness. Be me. You get rid of that freaking high school friend who is nothing but negative, who does nothing but bring you down. You've won.
yeah. That's very true. I've had to learn that lesson the hard way recently over the past couple years, and it's been tough, but it's definitely for the best.
The hard way, where will you go? Harder than life.
That's
Harder than
right.
life actually makes it's such an punt on life, because it really isn't that hard. It's all I'm doing is drawing a true boundary that this is what is acceptable. This is how you end up in my life. It's
Mhm.
here are the things I'm willing to accept. Here's I'm not. And then the moment you say I'm not, you make yourself available. All of a sudden, it's life is a vacuum. It gets filled with goodness.
Yeah.
Now, the reverse is true too. If you're going down a negative pathway and you're feeling freaking emotions and pain, boy, will frickin' God or the universe send you negativity. It will send you drugs, alcohol, and that shit will compound 10x. Next thing you know, you're in
Yeah.
big trouble.
But I think it's hard, and probably your story illustrates this better than a lot of other stories, because you've experienced so much negativity that was out of your control as a child. So let's go back to the very beginning and talk a little bit about your story. And I just want to say also, the fact that you did that process of writing your book is what really, that is the embodiment of what I'm doing with people as well. Going back over the timeline of your life has such power. Love that when you keep going back, you remember new things. And that's what happens. People think they don't remember a lot, but then once they get into it, they do. And there's so much value in that. I think living in the present moment is the goal, but you have to wrestle with the past in order to get to the place where you're comfortable living in the present moment.
An ongoing journey. That's why they call it journey. A
Yeah.
journey isn't over until we take our last breath. I'm constantly going to work on those feelings, and I have them. And it's a muscle that you got to constantly, you don't all of a sudden get to a point where you're like, I'm healed and everything's better.
Right.
I wish, because I used to say that too. I've been working out for 30 years. And I said, after 30 years, I should be able to keep my physique and not have to work out. It's like my retirement package, but that's not the way it works. You got
No,
to keep going or you'll lose it.
that's right. You have
So
to brush your teeth every single day forever.
I call it, I tell it, why you should shower every day, because they work.
That's right. So tell us, you were born in Detroit. Is that correct?
I was born in a suburb of Detroit. It's called Warren. I grew up just off of 8 Mile in Van Dyke. So that's the 8 Mile, the movie from Eminem. Eminem was actually went to high school with me for, I think, a year or two. So in that movie, 8 Mile, it's very similar to what goes on here, where lots of betrayal, lots of drinking, lots of drugs. Most people don't get out of Warren.
Mm,
It's that hamster wheel of, this is what we know. Most of my friends from high school are dead or in jail or addicted to drugs and alcohol and existing instead of thriving. I guess I would say surviving, but is that really surviving instead of
Yeah.
thriving? So it's all you ever know when you grow up poor like that. My sister, 9 years older than me, love her to death. She's still in Warren. She lives one block off of 8 Mile and she never got out of it. She lives a very peaceful life, but I don't want to speak for her, but I'm sure she'd rather live my life. That sounds arrogant, but I look at my life and I'm just grateful every single day that I get to do this. As you look at the camera, I'm at my Florida house. It's rainy and cold in Michigan, and I get to jump on a plane and shoot to Florida.
Yeah.
And that's from making tough choices. I tease people that the biggest thing I made was I quit drinking and I'd use my drinking money to buy a house in Florida on the water.
That's crazy. That's a lot of money to save from a lot of drinking.
I had a lot
Yes.
of fun.
So tell me, when you think back to your childhood, what's the very first thing that you can remember, your earliest memory?
Abandonment. And I remember there were no love. And I say that with my parents loved me the best they could. My mother and my stepfather loved me as best as they could. They just didn't love themselves. They loved alcohol more. And kids were to be seen and not heard. And they were there to do chores and basically to wait on them. You want to talk about slavery? I was there to serve my stepfather. I had to clean the house. I had to do all the laundry. I had to make his bed, to put in the book. I had to empty a pea jar because he was too lazy to get up or he was too afraid of my mom actually trying to kill him when they were drunk. This was the chaos that I grew up in. So when you're growing up in that kind of chaos, it's just nervous and scared all the time. And then to couple it, I didn't put this in the book, but to couple it, my mom had a stalk for years. From I believe from 8th grade until 12th grade, he stalked her. And it wasn't until I finally got big and I confronted him and I would see him walking around as a child. When I tell you I'm not afraid anymore, I used up all my fear growing up. And so I guess it would be loved, but abandoned, and fearful.
Do you have a story that illustrates that, like from when you were a little child?
I was a latchkey kid because obviously my parents, my mother, my stepfather were drinking all the time. So I had to, I was a good kid too. I got straight A's all through school. And I would go to school because we were so poor, we get free lunch. And that was the only meal I was guaranteed every day. So I would go to school every time. And frankly, my relationships with my friends were where I got love, where I felt important was my family. So I wanted to go to school to get out of the hellhole that was home. So I would come home from school, let myself in, do all my chores, which were plentiful. I had to vacuum every day, I had to dust everything, I had to do the dishes, I had to do the laundry, I had to make my stepfather's bed every single day, or I was punished severely, whether it be through physical punishment or a grounding. And the only thing you could do worse than me was to make me stay home in that hellhole. And little did I know they were instilling that work ethic in me, but that's not a way for a kid. Where's the love there?
Yeah.
Not one point. There would be days that I wouldn't even see them. I always wondered, like, where did they think I ate? There was
Yeah.
no food in the house. What? So it's just insane. So I would do my chores and then I played sports. So I'd have to run back to play sports because I wanted to be part of a team because that also made me feel loved and important and seen and heard. So I was really good at sports. And then I would come home. And then the scary part would happen. I would be like, okay, they're going to come home drunk. Is it going to be happy drunk tonight? Or is it going to be mean drunk tonight? Or are they just going to go to bed? And I would try to come home as late as possible so that I would miss my stepfather and he would go to bed because he woke up early and went to work. More than likely, he would go to bed if I could just come in late enough. So I just would avoid them like the plague. So being scared was a daily routine. And then as I got older, the stalker started coming around and I didn't know what he would do. I was in 8th grade. What does that put you at 14 years old? So I started working out really hard because I wanted to stop the beatings from my stepfather and I wanted to make sure I was going to be safe. And big I got, and I ended up confronting the stalker. I put him in the hospital. Amazing how that ended things. That it ended right then and there. It's funny when you break somebody's nose. This is what you did growing up, man. Before the cameras were everywhere, you had a problem with somebody, you got to fight, and you ended it. And even if you lost, at least you gained respect, and They knew that you were going to open your mouth and say something. There wasn't social media back then where you could just hide behind a phone. You said something stupid, you were going to fight. And then as it got older, it was you're going to get shot.
Wow.
So
So,
this is
how old do you think you were when you got in your first physical fight?
oh oh I don't even know, but all I could think about as a physical fight was with my mother or my stepfather. I put it in the book where it was either my eighth or ninth birthday. I believe it was my ninth because my sister had just moved out and she was 17 and she's 8 years older than me. So I believe it was my ninth birthday. My mom woke me up. She was drunk and beat the living crap out of me. And I'm talking, Mitzi, I remember, I can flashback right now. This is not the, I remember her punching me square in the nose, right in the nose at 9, because I couldn't fix. I had this, my dad, my biological father would come get me on the weekends before he become completely addicted to drugs and useless. So he would come and there would be some resemblance of love and support and a parental guidance. So he had picked me up for my birthday because my mother and my stepfather went out drinking. They don't give a shit. It's my birthday. Doesn't matter. And he bought me a Walkman, if you remember those. And they were these, they aren't earbuds that go in your ear like there were these funky things with these plastic connectors that were flimsy as can be. I had fallen asleep with it and I broke it. And my mom wanted to listen to it. And she was so drunk, she couldn't comprehend it was broken. And she would just punch me in the face and say, fix it. And I would be busted nose, bleeding everywhere. And I'd say, I can't, it's broken. And my sister she'd moved out because the beatings were always to her. She moved out, but she stayed with us that night and she was hiding in a closet. And then she heard me fighting for my life and came out and punched my mom in the nose and grabbed my lifeless body and pulled me to safety and slammed the door in my mother's face. Had she not done that, I might have died. And I remember it like it was yesterday because it was so traumatic. But I also remember I had perfect attendance in school and I had to miss the next day because I had a black eye because she literally at one point took her. I've never shared this before, just so you know. I don't know why I am, but she took her nails and gouged them in my
Oh my god.
and this is I'm bloody, I'm beaten, and she's just gouging my eye. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm going to die. There were several times between that her and my stepfather where I thought I was going to die. Needless to say, I don't feel that way anymore. I mean, nobody's ever going to put their freaking hands on me. It just never happened. I just feel like now that I'm bigger and stronger, I've taken the power back and no one will ever make me feel that way. Needless to say, I don't talk to my mother and my stepfather. They're still alive, but I don't want anything. I see them once in a while at funeral or something, and I don't even talk to them anymore. I tried talking to them years ago, and I have a wonderful 14-year-old daughter that they aren't even interested in knowing about. And it just works for me. I went through so much therapy. Really, it was when I released all the pain. This is where I'm getting to is you could sit there and be mad and say, woe is me, or you can accept that they did the best that they could and just process it and just say, I released that pain, surrender to it and move on. And once you do that, I did it through a hypnotherapy. And I remember the session, I did it through a hypnotherapy session during the pandemic. And the moment I released that pain, life got better.
Yeah.
Not just a little better, a little better. And I was able to function. I didn't have a chip on my shoulder. I wasn't angry all the time. And that's the moment that I never needed to have a drink ever again. So I was drinking. I didn't know this. I was drinking to numb that pain of feeling unloved.
I'm going to stop you just for a second. What age were you when you had your first drink?
Oh, so we talked about my stepfather coming home, and once in a while he would come home happy drunk, and he would make me have a beer with him. And so I would say about 8 years old because that's when my sister left. So I would drink a beer and I would feel numb because it only take a couple of sips. You're 8 years old to start feeling drunk. And he would have me play records, country music records. And for that hour, I felt loved. As warped as when you're starving, someone throws you a saltine cracker. It's the best freaking saltine cracker you could ever have. So when I experienced no positive interaction, when it was always negative, you're always being yelled at, you're always no good. That hour of him not beating on me and actually being camaraderie felt good. So I equated alcohol with bonding. Let's talk
Yeah.
about trauma bonding,
Yeah.
bonding and safety. So I took that to the nth degree, and that's how I picked my friends for
Yeah.
years. And that was what was fun to me.
That's crazy. It strikes me what I'm thinking about as a mother is how did you even make it to 8 years old? Who took care of you when you were a baby? Who fed
Oh,
you? Who
that's
kept
a,
you alive?
so, you know what? I'm going to steal something here, and I'm going to shamelessly plug. But I'm sorry because you're going to choke me up. My sister was 9 years older than me, and I dedicated my book to her. And it literally says here, to my sister Lisa, who saved me from many savage beatings. I would not be here today without your courage to stand up to our mother and stepfather. You are the strong one. So she kept me alive. And she not only kept me alive, she would make me read her school books. And I don't think she knew what she was doing. She just made me super smart and super work. And she said, you're going to get out of here. And I did.
Yeah.
And just saying that my sister listens to a lot of these things. I love you and I appreciate you more than I wish there's more that I could do to show you my gratitude.
She
She's
must have felt a lot of heart wrenching choice between leaving and getting out herself and leaving you there.
she tried getting me out and she went to a social worker. She ran away and it was so dysfunctional, chaotic. She tried to get me out. She told the social worker, you have to get him out of there. She's going to kill him. She was tougher on her, my sister. My mom was most tougher on my sister than me. My stepfather was way tougher on me. I guess it was a machismo thing. So I got it from them both, and she only got it from her.
Mm.
So she would say, hey, you got to get him out of there. And then when the social worker would talk to me, I would clam up and think that this is my fault. So if I say something, I'm going to get in super big trouble. And then my mom would do these things where she would show up in public. She would act like she's the best mother in the world. So what do? I go and I date women that were just like my mother for years and years. It's amazing how goofy the universe works. I don't do it anymore and I recognize it right away, but it's amazing how unhealed people are and how
Yeah.
much trauma that everybody's experienced. So
Yeah.
I have so much compassion for people and love for people. And that's really what the heart of the life is all about. It's to model the behavior that gives you a blessed lifestyle, to inspire, to motivate and educate, and hopefully entertain a little bit because there are some funny stories that I
Yeah,
thought
learn a lot from those things, even though they're hard and heartbreaking. Sometimes we learn more the harder it is, the bigger the lesson.
that's why they put you through boot camp. That's why there's
Oh, yeah.
hell week. That's exactly what it is. When you break somebody down to their breaking point, you really truly see who they are. And I will tell you this much. I am unbreakable. I am a freaking problem. You put my back against the wall, and that's when I get going. And
Yeah.
granted, that was literally instilled in me at times that when I was at the lowest point, a little boy crying, just saying, I just want to die.
But you
And
you did have some positive experiences with your biological father.
yeah. And then after he became useless as a human, meaning he was so addicted to drugs and alcohol that he just couldn't function, I just learned this the other day. I suppressed this memory and I was sitting at breakfast with my daughter. And I remembered that I was at the corner store stealing a bag of chips to eat dinner. And I was hungry. And some of the memories I had with father was going to his parents, which was amazing because they showed so much love, but yet he still turned out jacked up. We all have demons, no matter how your upbringing is. So I happen to, and this is going to date me, I happen to get on a phone booth. And yeah, they had phone booths. And I did a collect call to my grandmother, to my biological father's mother. And she thought something was wrong. And I'm just saying hi. And she's like, you know what? Why don't I come get you this weekend? And that changed the trajectory of my life, that joke of a call. And they started picking me up on weekends. And I hid the abuse, of course. And she said to me years later, I knew something was going on. I just didn't want to rock the boat. But rest assured, had I known it was that bad, I would have pulled you out of there. So I got lots of love and support from my grandparents, and they were what modeled the behavior that I said, holy smokes, there's a whole nother world out here. I put in the book a picture of me having breakfast at their house. The stupidest things like feeding me shows me love. So if I ever come to your house, just feed me and I'll love you forever.
I heard you like chocolate cake.
Lemon chocolate cake, chocolate cake. I don't know what it is. I think quitting alcohol, I got all my sugar from alcohol. And then it also bonds. My daughter loves chocolate. So we bake together and anything I can do with her, I want to do twice because I get to really experience a childhood through her eyes.
Yeah.
So I do spoil her, but she also has chores and she has responsibilities. She's got a standard that she has to live up to, which she's more than exceeding.
Yeah.
And I'm building an assassin there. So she'll never have daddy daughter issues.
Good.
I do this to my daughter now, and she has dinner with my friends and me so we can engage in adult conversation. I don't let my daughter do one word answers. It's silly. You have to communicate. I would sit at dinners with my grandparents and their friends and ask their really well to do, and I'm talking wealthy, not just rich monetarily, but also personally, professionally. I would ask them all kinds of questions. And there was one gentleman who could never talk about the Holocaust. And his wife would say, he loves coming and telling you about it. And you're the only person he will ever talk about. And he was just a wonderful man. And those things at 14, those conversations at 14 and 15 and 16 shaped me to who I am today. I realized that it wasn't just having money, being rich financially doesn't make you successful. It's also being a good human being. But it also amazed me to see this powerful man tell me stories how he was hiding in closets and at night sneaking out to go steal things to be able to pay the German family so they would continue to hide him. Sound a little familiar about my life?
Yeah.
I little did I know that's what I was doing, stealing food to eat, to survive, hiding from my mother and my stepfather so I could live. And then here I am having a modicum of success, trying to make a difference. Just this gentleman that did. He's long since passed away. I remember going to his funeral. And that's what I wanted to be.
Yeah. So you did have a lot of positive role models in your life, even though your daily life was crushing. You
But
had some.
would gravitate to them. And it's what I do now. The moment I meet someone like our mutual friend Craig, who exudes positivity, we're all a vibrational energy, and I just crave more of it.
Yeah.
It's funny. I've been like that my whole life, where I've always hung out with people much, much older than me because I wanted to learn from them. I wanted to understand, and I steal from everybody. Mitzi, I steal your love and your support and your kindness and your compassion. And I try to build this person that I love looking in the mirror and see and I'm proud of, and
Yeah.
someone that my daughter can look up to and that everybody can look up to and model and say, that's who I want to be.
Yeah. So at some point you decided that you could take care of yourself. You got to be 14, you started working out, you could start handling things physically. When did you get out of the house?
Oh, oh, that's just such a good question. By the way, I took care of myself since I was 8 years old when my sister moved out.
Yes.
So I was alone since 8. And then at 12, I lied and said I was 13 and got a paper route so I could make regular money. So I started hustling at 12 years old. When did I move out? In Michigan, you can move out when you're 16. And I want to say I turned 16 November 24th and I was gone by January.
How did your parents handle that, your mom and stepdad, when there wasn't anyone there to
Oh,
be in the
he
house?
tried to fight me on it. We got in a huge fight. At that time, I was going to school, getting straight A's. I was working 40 hours a week running a car wash, and I was playing sports. And by that time, he had quit drinking and he was a miserable F. He was a miserable son of a gun. And his life was so miserable. His whole goal was to make my life miserable. And arguably, I was pretty happy kid at 16 still because I had everything. I had a pocket full of money. I had a full belly. I could take care of myself and I was strong physically and nobody could mess with me. So I had my own car. I was self sufficient. I just didn't need anybody. So he was messing with me one day and I got home at 12:05. My curfew was 12 and he tried keeping me up and I had to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I let him do a little power trip for about an hour. And I looked at him and I said, hey, you got two choices. And I still do this today. Either let me go to sleep or we're going outside and we're going to fight. And he goes, get out of my house. So he threw me out. I thought I was gone. I was like, sweet. So the next day he's like, hey, on your way home from work, please pick this up. I'm like, shit, he didn't get the point. I went home the next day and packed all my bags. I didn't take anything that they ever gave me. I took all the clothes that I bought, put them in 2 garbage bags, and the next day I left and I moved to my sister's. And it was a Sunday. And on Monday, he called my sister and says, Kelly didn't come home. He's like, yeah, he lives here now. And she said, where I want to put him on the phone. I want to talk to him. And she said, he's at school. And she said, he goes, why is he in school? And because he has to get educated and he's going to college and he's just wants to be out of your under from your bullshit. And he said, well, tell him I want his driver's license, all these things that he tried to do to hold control over me. And to this day, I won't owe anybody a dollar. Nobody can have control over me. And so he was an a-hole. And we tried to have a relationship for years. And it wasn't until years later that I cut him off. I would think I was 24 years old. So that was 16 to 20. 8 years I tried to mend a relationship with him. And I just realized it was just a one-sided suck. And
Yeah.
every time I would go over there, he would never call to check on me. It was always, I need you to do something. I need you to come do this. I need you. And then I'd get over there and he'd berate me. What am I doing? What, I'm a grown man at 24. I remember sitting in his living room and some of the chores that he would make me do for summer, he would make me paint the whole house, do things that no kid would have to do because he was a cheap bastard. And I was there with my girlfriend or fiance, and he starts making a comment about the walls. He's like, look at this paint job that Kelly did. Look how shitty of a job he did. And I was like, why am I here to get abused?
Yeah.
And I stood up and I go, I'm out of here. Have a nice life. And I never came back.
Wow.
I ran into him years later at a funeral and I said, hey, I'd like you to meet my daughter. And wasn't interested. No, I'm done. I'll see him at their funeral and where their nobody will be because they're miserable people.
Yeah. That's a
I'm better
shame.
off.
You are better off. Absolutely. I think it's really tough, but tough choice. There's a lot of situations where people have to cut family off for those reasons.
That's a big thing, Mitz. You got to talk about that. Just because they're family doesn't mean that they have to be in your life. I struggle with that a lot. I did a lot of therapy and everything I read, they say once you've forgiven, you should probably reach back out. But I just went through this journal process where I said, what is the benefit? What would the benefit be? It's not like they're going to be grandparents to my daughter. They're not interested.
Yeah.
They're not functioning.
Yeah.
What would the benefit? Because society says it's the right thing to do. I
No,
don't.
I agree. I think there's
I
cases where it's necessary
and
for sure.
I've wrestled for years. Was I going to go to the funeral? Yeah, I will go because that'll be my final closure. And I will have some choice words. I'll have some good ones because, hey, man, everything that they did made me a tough son of a gun today. I don't have any fear. The whole world could be falling in. And I'm like, okay, let's go. It's time to go. I have zero fear. I have a grit that nobody else can touch. I have a quiet confidence about me because I've been through hell and back more than one time. And I know I'm going to survive. Somebody had to be looking out for me from some of this stuff. So
Definitely.
I am here for a long time,
Yeah.
unfortunately, for
Yeah.
people. And for people that don't want to hear my freaking lecturing and this is the way to live your life. And that's another thing too, man. You know me. Not everybody does. But I hope that my genuine authenticity comes through because if you want to freaking crawl up my behind and see what I'm all about, what is what you get?
Yeah.
There
You're
isn't a
very
secret
authentic.
porn addiction. I'm not secretly sipping drinks. I don't just have one and say I'm sober. No, I don't, it is the real deal, Holyfield.
Yeah.
And I live my life the way that I claim it. And it intimidates some people. And I say, why? Why? Adapt some of the things. You don't have to live life the way that I do, but adapt some of the winning personalities and traits
Mhm.
and habits because I don't do anything that different. It's what everybody tells you to. Exercise. I'd stay away from drugs and alcohol. I don't look at porn. I never did. I don't know why. I'm a pervert. I'll tell that. I love women and I think you guys are beautiful, but I just think pornography is fake. I read emphatically, read a book a week. I'm reading our mutual friend Sean Hill's book, Activate Your Wrath, which is so good, by the
Yep.
way. So
I
read,
finished that.
I read all the time. I'm taking in multiple podcasts. I was on the plane on the way to Florida last night and I listened to two of Craig's podcasts I was behind on. So I'm constantly feeding my mind. I meditate, I journal. There's nothing there that's too outlandish. I don't do any of those ice baths, submersions. I don't, my life is hard enough already. I don't need to
That's
make it
funny.
harder.
But you got to this point because you went through I wanna just emphasize that you battled with addiction, like, very strongly. So, can we talk about that part of your life?
Absolutely. And I will tell you, Mitz, that I am not the poster child for what you should do. I do everything in my life backwards. I quit drinking cold turkey with no help. I didn't go to AA. And I just, because it was a math equation, the cost of drinking had far outweighed the benefits. And believe me, the benefits were much, man. Everybody loved Party Animal Kelly. I had thousands of friends. I had something to do every minute of the day. It was a blast, but I just didn't. Here's the funny thing about it: I didn't really have any major epiphany. I didn't get a drunk driving. I didn't get arrested. I didn't hurt anybody. I just was hurting myself and the people that love me, and hated the person in the mirror. My skin was blotchy, puffy, felt like crap. My hangovers were just brutal. So there's got to be a better way. And then truthfully, this is full disclosure. I don't know if I've said this yet, but I just realized this week is I wanted to be loved, really loved by a significant other. And I realized everybody I was choosing, like attracts like. I was a drunken whore and I kept attracting. I hate saying that because it's just disrespectful to some of the women and that's not nice. So I was attracting people that hadn't dealt with their issues yet, that were emotionally unavailable because I was emotionally unavailable. When I quit drinking, I realized I was emotionally unavailable. So it's usually the other way. I'm having all these problems and emotionally unavailable. I'm going to quit drinking. But I quit drinking and then I realized I was emotionally unavailable and I'm
Mhm.
a skid case. So that journey goes on because there's a lot of still unhealed, emotionally unavailable people. The good news is I'm able to spot it pretty quickly. So the addiction wasn't really an addiction as much as it was a way of life. Just
Mhm.
what you did. It's what I learned. It's you drank every day because that's what my stepdad did. And he used to tell me, I do my best work hungover. So that was a badge of honor for me. And then the amount of friends, boy, misery loves company.
Yeah.
You want to freaking do something? Just go meet at a bar. There's a
Yeah.
bunch of freaking miserable people there. And unfortunately, I've done enough
Yeah.
research now that I know that if you're drinking alcohol regularly to get drunk and you get drunk, there's some unresolved childhood trauma you got to deal with. That
Yeah.
you're just trying to stop little Kelly. And believe me, I still have those days, Mitzi. Last time I was here, I come to Florida every 2 weeks. I did a self imposed solitude 2 days and I sat in whatever I was feeling. To this day, I still don't know what I was feeling, but it was so uncomfortable that I all I could do was read, meditate, and journal. And then I'd go for walks around my neighborhood. And I had this feeling of uneasiness. And that's when most people tap out,
Yeah.
take a Xanax, take cannabis, take drinking. And believe me, I have a full bar here. I could have had a drink and nobody would have been the wiser, but that wouldn't have solved anything. So I sat in my feelings for 2 days and the universe always works in your favor. I was at just a Saturday afternoon, way late in the evening at a low point. I'm like, why am I doing this? What's going on? I can't. I go for a walk around the neighborhood. I run into a dear friend. We talk for a little while. About an hour later, he goes, I'm coming to get you. And we go out. We both didn't want to go. We went out for a little bit. It was boring. We ended up back at my house for 3 hours smoking cigars, talking about business. And we're going to go into business together. And then the next day, he calls me again. He's like, you're coming boating with us. 2 days of solitude and then one full day of love and support and sun. And I didn't die.
Yeah.
I didn't die. I didn't punch out. I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs. And you know what? I did that? Strengthen the muscle to know that everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And to this moment, I think I'm still going through, I'm just going through a transitional period to take the next level because I really want to exude more love. You said I pass out the I love yous. I want to embody love.
Yeah.
Whereas when I walk up, the next time I get to see you, you're going to feel it. Right? And that's
Well,
what I'm doing. So to take next level stuff,
yeah.
you gotta go to next level shit. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. Well, it's almost like you want everyone to feel what you did not feel
yep.
as a child.
And
And you
I
wanna feel
want
it yourself.
what do they say? You can't make everybody like you, but you can make everybody feel you.
Oh, I
And
love that.
I want people to feel good every time they interact with me and when they leave me and go, I don't know what the hell that was, but I feel good. They
Love
will
that.
remember how you made them feel. And there's times where I am going through something, and I don't want this to be negative. I'm not sitting here chomping at my nails going, oh my God, how do I, or nobody likes me, or I'm not loved. That's not what I was doing. I just was sitting in some sort of feeling, and it was okay. I was okay with it. I
Yeah.
surrendered and let it go. And it
Yeah.
just 2 straight days, and I was stronger for it.
Well, you have
And
to be okay with yourself so that you can be good for someone else.
people at that point too, Mitzi, they'll call a friend, they'll have people over. You just I read Jay Shetty's 8 Rules of Love, and the first chapter talks about solitude. All too often, people cannot be alone with themselves. And that's why I
Yeah.
drank, because
Yeah.
I was alone, scared to death as a child. I remember letting myself in the house, getting into the center of the house, grabbing a freaking butcher knife, scared to death that this man was going to break in or my parents were going to come home and beat me. And then I would sneak in my room and try to hide. I'll do that self-imposed. It's a lot like working out. What do? We go to the gym and you lift heavy weights to tear the muscles down to make them bigger. It's the same thing. You're tearing that muscle down to go, hey, I may be alone and I may be going stuff, but I know this too shall pass.
Yeah.
And if you keep doing that, you build a muscle that is unstoppable.
Yeah. It's so important to be alone. I love being alone. I love my alone time. I have so many things I want to do, like reading or hobbies or something artistic. And when you cultivate that relationship with yourself, that self development, you have these inner growth moments, these spurts of growth that are just continual. And then you can put that out into the world.
Let's talk about alone versus loneliness. They're totally
Yeah.
different things.
Oh,
Being
totally.
alone is solitude. Being lonely is the feeling of unresolved issues. So
Hmm.
if you just sit in those, they will pass. I highly suggest you journal just to get it out of you. Journal, write it though, not notes in a phone. Write it out.
With
Something
your hands,
about
because you need the mind body connection.
there you go. And you get it out of you
Yeah.
and you keep doing it. All too often, we'll call a friend who is just like in the same sense as you, and they're going to tell you it's okay because that's all they know. And then you're going to drink a bottle of wine and sweep it under the rug and nothing gets solved.
Yeah.
No, you need a friend to come over with me that just says everything's going to be okay. Talk about it.
Yeah.
Sit in your shit with you and let you talk. And then say, this is what you're going to do. This is what we're going to do to fix it. We're going to make intentional actions, not what you want to hear, what you need to hear. We need
Mhm.
more friends like that to say, hey, man, you're being a baby, you're being a bitch, and it's time to be a boss. And
Yeah.
you be a boss by intentionally living your life.
Yeah,
Again,
and
I've
you
said
do
this
that
earlier.
when you're, like, sober. You do that when you're the word sober not means so much more than just not drinking or not doing drugs. It means, like, lucidness, total clarity, you know?
Presence, feeling. So there's a study that about alcohol that when you constantly turn to alcohol, it numbs your senses so much that when you don't have it, they're so numb already that they're not even functional. So if you have an issue and any kind of trauma, the last thing in the world you should do is drink. Trust me, nobody dies from sitting in their feelings. You just don't. And as uncomfortable as it is, it will pass. And if you journal it, it'll pass a lot faster.
Yeah.
And on the other side of that is growth. And
Yes.
it's massive growth. But
Yeah,
most people tap out at the first sign of discomfort and pain. Just get me
they
out of here.
do.
Get me out,
Yeah.
please.
But what you're doing is so powerful. You're the kind of person who's just all in. You're so enthusiastic about it. And because of your hard lessons that you've learned, you're able to do that, to really dive into it. And looking at how much you have changed in your shift, how do you know that you're not going to go back?
It's
How can you trust it and how can other people trust it in you?
because I've exercised that muscle of keeping my word to myself. I know that the moment I say something, it's done. And I've done it so many times. That's why again, I go back to my book. The first chapter is self awareness. I know that I have gone 47 years of always keeping my word to myself, always. I do not, I don't lie to myself. I'm my toughest critic. Mitzi, you can give me all the superlatives in the world. And you can also tell me I'm the biggest poop poo poo head in the world. And it doesn't have any, I trust myself emphatically. And that came with getting into and out of tough situations on my own. And that's the newsflash. I got a newsflash for you. Ain't nobody coming to save you. It's you. You got to do the work because it's your life. You're going to reap the benefits. So I have been in those situations. It comes with anything. Experience comes wisdom. So every single time a tough situation in my life has come, I've gotten out of it. I'm batting 1,000%. We all are.
Yeah.
So if you keep reminding yourself that I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to get through this. So, and really truthfully, the only thing that made me do anything negative was that need to be loved and that fear of abandonment from my parents. And I hit that. I did twice a week hypnotherapy, once a week emotional coach, once a week regular therapist, journaling, podcasting, reading for a good 6 months during the pandemic when the whole world was shutting down. So everybody
Yeah.
else, this is typical of my life. Everybody else is day drinking and getting
Mm,
hammered and getting fat all during the pandemic when the lights shut down. I peeled off my brain and redid it. And then on top of it, I rebuilt my IT company, National Technology Management. And then I was in arguably some of the best shape of my life. I built a home gym. I built an invincible, indestructible man, and I'm still building him.
I
And
love it.
there's going to be a point where it's just, I'm up on stage with Ed, my ladder, maybe Craig, and just coming, man. I'm coming strong. And
Oh, I
my
could see that. 100%, I
whole
could see that.
story is for charity. So I was
Yeah.
looking for a note that I made myself about that. You just said something. How do I know? And I make myself notes all that just I have pages and pages of notes on my phone,
Yeah.
things that I feel. Look at it. Here's one. Here's the fun of it. This is just there's one. There's this note. It's too funny. The feeling of loneliness of making tough life decisions makes you normal in the right rooms around like minded people that simply see the world differently and not like anyone else.
Yeah.
That's a definition of crabs in a bucket for me. If I were to drink and commiserate, I'd have a lot more friends. So, what I want to do is I want to make tough decisions and be alone, and I'll find myself in better rooms.
Yes, absolutely. I just was thinking about this yesterday, the same exact thing. Maybe it's not about getting chasing and seeking those rooms, that the room is already inside us. We are already in the room and we need to open the door
That is
for
absolutely, that's
those
what,
people to come in.
if you just, that's what I said about I want to be loved, exude love.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that out there and everybody else will come
Yeah.
through. Here's what I wrote 123:23. Full engagement. You're asking that full engagement. I am all in.
Yep.
So when you say, and I keep repeating it, sometimes you like the shower, you got to do it daily. You got to remember, you got to
Yeah.
keep reinvigorating that of what your commitment is. And I'm not
Yeah.
here for a minute. I'm coming to disrupt the game
Yeah.
because I will argue that I'll put myself up against any of the top people. They're further along than me in the personal development space, but I'm coming. I'm going to be a
Yeah.
force to be
You
reckoned
are.
because my
Um,
story is different. I've been through it.
You have been through it. And I know that's probably something that's going to be with you for your whole life. That wanting to love, that little Kelly will be always be there. Him looking for love will always be there. How has that translated into your personal relationships with women? I know
Self.
it's been a little, you've had some turmoil.
So I just this last week reached back out to my hypnotherapist to do a brush up. And I said, hey, I don't date much anymore because I'm really quick to figure out and someone's not for me. I noticed the red flags. A red flag is a red flag. And now I'm so focused and self-aware that I pay attention to them now.
Sure.
I don't think I'm going to change somebody. Mine is very simple, very easy. I started off with you got to have one or less drinks. I don't drink. It's not a trigger for me, but if you're drinking two or more drinks, then there's an issue with something that you have not worked on. I want to find someone who's physically and emotionally doing the work. I want to be equally attracted to their mind and their body. So my dating pool is very small.
Okay.
So I date myself.
There you go.
I live a great life. I come down here to Florida and I sit outside in the sun and I smoke a cigar and I go boating. When the universe decides I'm ready, she'll appear.
That's
So
right.
it is still a problem. I still tend to, I catch myself, the people I'm attracted to tend to be like my mother
Oh,
and that are emotionally unavailable. And I just want to heal that wound 100%.
okay.
So what I did is I went to my hypnotherapist. I said, I've got still a little bit of a blockage. It's just little. I can catch it. I don't even want to give those type of people a time of day. So I'd like to spin it positively. And I will tell you my relationships with all people that are plutonic, I've gone through the roof, like you and Craig, and it's just everybody. You're in my life. I love you and I want you to succeed. And I'm going to do everything I can to help you and support. So if you're not in my life and I haven't talked to you in a little while, you're probably one of the people that I've discerned to get rid of.
Right.
Everything else is good. If the only thing I could do is I'd love to find a like-minded person, someone who's big into physical fitness and mindfulness and is a boss that works a lot and cares about people. And it'll come. I say that all this tells to
Definitely.
me is what do they say? When the student is ready, the teacher will appear, or
That's
when
right.
it's ready, it'll happen.
You just have to get in the space where you're a vibrational match to that person. And
Correct.
if
And
the
that's what
person
scared me.
hasn't
The last
appeared, it's because you're not in the right space yet.
correct. And the other thing too is I'm not worried about it. I'm humble. I'm handsome. I'm relatively successful. I do things the right way. Everything will work out when it's
You
the way
really
it's.
do have the whole package, ladies. Just so you know.
Thank you. I love you. I receive that. And you know, is what you get. If you're a good person, I want you in my life and I love you. I don't care if you're a Martian, an alien. I don't care.
People's hearts.
Oh, I love good hearts and souls and I
Yeah.
love good energy and I love good people. And I love a good struggle.
Mm.
Because that's what heart of life's about, man. It's nobody comes out perfect. We got to battle, we got to fight, but that's what makes it work. That who you become in the tough times are everything. It is so fun because I got a news flash for you, man. I've said this before. As adversity's here, it just left or it's on its way.
Yeah.
And it just goes in that circle. Right now, I'm facing some sort of adversity and everything. It'll leave and we'll have a nice freaking good season for a minute and then it'll be back.
Yeah.
But it's okay. That's
Yeah.
what that life is leveling you up for the different stages of life, the different seasons.
Yeah. It's like the bow and arrow. It's like sometimes you have to get pulled back so that you could get propelled
I love
forward.
that. I love that analogy. I love you. That's just it's so
And something you say in your book, you like to seek out people who have different opinions that you would disagree with. How has that served you in your life? You don't have to agree on everything to be friendly with someone.
first of all, you are so prepared. I've been on a lot of podcasts and you are so prepared. I got to give you kudos. You're going to do great. You must have read and took notes and more about the book than I do. And thank you. Just
You're
such a good
welcome.
person. I appreciate this.
Well, I'm a teacher at heart, so I prepare.
You're a school teacher.
I am. I've been a college professor for the past 25 years.
So I have a theory. Two people underpaid in this world.
Tell me
Police
about it.
officers, school teachers. If I were to be president right now, I would give both of them raises, but I would cut off. Here's your standard. If you don't meet these standards, you're out. They would all be six-figure employees and we would get better caliber people and we'd
Oh,
have better work. So
we did.
be a question after I gave you all the superlatives. It's this. Wait, what was the question again?
It was that you seek out people that you disagree with.
Oh,
And
yeah.
how does that serve you being able to do that? Being so open minded and being able to have
Well,
relationships, friendships with people who maybe you have disagreements with.
if you just look at social media, they algorithm keeps presenting you of what you already
Yeah.
know.
Isn't that
So
like
you just
sinister in a way?
go by that. So I believe united we stand, divided we fall. You'll hear me say that over
Yeah.
and over
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
There is a reason. I have a theory. This may be controversial, but I have a theory why we haven't had a terrorist attack on domestic land is because that would unite us.
Well, since 9/11.
If we have, I know, but since then, if we had, that would unite us immediately. So you just watched us disintegrate during the pandemic.
Oh,
We
yeah.
ate each other alive.
Yeah.
And it's this notion of I am right, you're wrong. And if you don't agree with me, you need to die is
Mhm.
insane. We are all human. I always say this we are all on the same airplane of the United States of America. And It's like going in and shooting the pilot because he doesn't agree with you. Or if you're the right wing, you need the left wing to freaking do. We're all a part of the same plane. We need
Yeah.
each other to balance each other out. And I also grow and learn from the other side because if you're always told you're right, there's a time where you're not right. You have to be presented with the other side. And I love that. So I love Brene Brown. Do I agree with her outlook, her views on life? Not really. She's a devout woke person. She'll tell you it. She is, but I love the research. I love the way she presents. I love the way her compassion, and I will listen to her. Oprah's brilliant.
Mhm.
She is very liberal. She sees the world
Yeah.
differently, but we have so many. I like to tell people, let's start with what we agree on, then work out. We start with what we don't agree on, and then we start freaking name calling. So I also like to see other parts of how people think because I love people and I'm ridiculously curious.
Must be high in open mindedness. Have you ever taken a personality test? Like one of those big five? There's one called the Big Five personality test, and open mindedness is one of the
It
characteristics of
hasn't always
personality.
been that way. I think that comes with a lot of self love,
Yeah.
understanding and compassion, and really the internal love
Yeah.
because you're not coming from a place of survival.
Right.
Once I surrendered, I love to dig into people when they're drinking and doing drugs because I want to see what they're getting because I
Yeah.
was there.
Yeah.
I want to know when I see self inflicted pain why they can't get off the hamster wheel. I just love to understand. I also love to see why people believe they should get something that they didn't earn.
Well,
And
there's a
there's certainly
psychology behind everything, and understanding the human mind is like the ultimate mystery. We're always seeking to do that.
we're all a little screwed up. I'll tell you that. I'm
Oh,
still
for
screwed
sure.
up. I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah, me too. And always taking a good look at myself. I also stopped drinking over the past couple years. I'll still have an occasional drink, but if I look back at my life, I can honestly say every bad thing in air quotes that happened, there was always alcohol involved, always. And I just started to not feel good. Like I had some health things, and then I just like that was the first thing you cut out. And you think to yourself, if you get a health problem, no matter what it is, big or small, you immediately detoxify your life because you want to feel better. And alcohol is one of the first things you cut out because we know that it's toxic. There's a very good podcast on the Huberman Lab. There's an episode on alcohol where he goes through all of the toxicities and what it's actually doing to your body and your
I
brain.
want to stop right there.
Yep.
That is brilliant. I read that or I watched it. And I want to make sure people understand. I'm not saying that all alcohol is bad. I'm saying one or less, two or less,
Yeah.
infrequently, you're fine.
Yeah.
I
And
am
that's
not
really
out.
what
I
I do.
choose not to drink. But
Yeah.
I know people who are sober. Andy Frisella is one of them. He drinks 5 times a year, and it's like a beer. It's the problem. It's when you're
Right.
drinking to numb yourself that you have the
Yeah.
issue.
And once you do that, once you get to that point where you're not drinking, you will have a drink and you'll realize you don't like what's happening to you. You don't like what's happening to your body. I think about times that I drank so much that I got sick. And like, why would you do that to yourself on purpose? I know
Because
you talked about in the book, you said it was like getting Siegeled. It was like a term, like Googling.
I can tell you what it is. You're trying to numb the pain. You're trying to kill that demon, that trauma. And it
Mhm.
hurts
Yeah.
so much that you'd rather drink and hurt a different way. Again, the familiar misery. And then you look around and everybody's doing it. It's the
Yeah.
only thing that you have to explain why you don't drink. Oh, why? You're a drunkard?
Yeah.
No, I
You're
just,
not drinking. What's wrong? You're not drinking tonight?
but it is straight up poison and I don't recommend it. Now, you want to have a drink. I love when people, oh, I needed to relax. Oh, really? You know what I do? I go to work out.
And plus, you'll lose weight once you stop drinking as well.
Oh,
I
dude,
want to ask you. I want to ask you this question because I could relate to it. You said that you are now the same age, or maybe this was last year, but you're the same age as your father was when he passed. I am the same age right now as my mother was when she passed, and it affects me very profoundly. So I want to know how that affects you.
I had the best year of my life at 46 today. I'm going to have better years, but I had the best. The amount of winning that I did last year in all facets of my life, everything
It
I
was like a
touched,
rebirth, like a year of
it
rebirth.
was like the universe. And I had a theory when I was heavy into my drinking. I was like, hey, I'm good. I can go at 46 and I've lived a good life. I've partied. And then, boy, did that change when I decided to give up the naughty water. And then I was
I've
pretty
never heard
nervous.
it
I was
called
like,
that. I love that.
maybe I put that out there too much and God's going to take me. Oh, no. God said, here's your reward, Mr. Siegel. Now, I'm not kidding you, Mitzi. I just said this to a friend last night. January 1st, the winning stop. Now, it's plateaued. I'm 2.5 months into it. It's going to start again real soon because I've doubled and tripled up on my work, on my habits, on everything. It was ascending. I reached a plateau and now it's going to require another better me. What have I done? I reached back out to my hypnotherapist. I'm doing double the meditations, harder workouts, more content going out to social media, more phone calls for national technology, more, and then more introspect, next level. I predict come April 1st, we'll start winning. Now, let's be honest. I'm sitting in Florida right now. After I'm out of here, I'm jumping on my boat. I'm not losing.
No,
Let's like that straight.
doing
It's
well.
it's just I've all of a sudden hit a plateau and everybody isn't just consuming who I am. I've hit a lot of negative. Now, some of that could be just a sign of the times. We are in a recession. And not everybody does what we do in our life. And there's a certain form of misery that's going on. And they everybody wants to blame somebody else and not me. Losers assign blame, winners fix problems. Don't care who caused something. Let's figure out what we're going to go forward. I'm
Yeah.
not going backwards. I'm going forward. How do we go forward? So
Yeah,
let's address the solutions and not don't treat the
exactly.
symptoms, treat the fucking disease. Oops, I didn't
I
mean to
love it.
swear.
That's okay. You can
That
swear.
that
You're
went on.
allowed to swear on my podcast.
I know. I try not to because it loses a little bit of its luster. I am a hillbilly at heart, so I do like to throw occasional f bombs and things in here. So
Okay.
I
That's
say
okay.
I do what I do. Yeah.
All right.
Long short story is it was an issue. It is since passed. My birthday was November 24th. I am 47 now.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is feeling sadness that my dad didn't get to experience the life that I did. When I built this
Mm,
house in Florida, I asked my uncle to come with me because it would have been something I would have liked to do with my dad. I didn't get to do anything cool with my dad. He didn't get to see me start a business. He didn't get to see a daughter. He didn't get to see me buy new cars. He didn't get to see me get married, get divorced. He never even experienced that. He didn't live a life. But I tell you what, well, there's a lot of him in me. And he was kind. He was compassionate. He understood that everybody was created equal and everybody loved him. And he had adult conversations with me when I was very young. And I have since done that with my daughter. She and I have adult conversations, have had it for years. She's 14 now. She is able to carry on a conversation. So every single bad thing in my life turned out to be a good thing.
yeah. So let's get into your lessons and your blessings. What would you say are the biggest lessons that you learned in life?
Ooh, there's so many. They're in the book, but I will tell you this much. And it really, the four agreements is what I live by.
Yeah.
Be
Me too.
impeccable with your word
Yep.
to everybody else and to yourself. And my thing is always tell the truth. Literally, just always tell the truth. Love everything and realize that you're not alone. Everybody's human and be kind and compassionate and understand that this we only have this isn't a dress rehearsal. This is the real deal. So live your life today and you don't have all the time. You don't know when this thing's going to be over. We just talked about both of our parents passing away at 46 or 47. They didn't live their life. Do you? I think it's Tony Robbins says this or Ed Mylett. I don't know, but I'm going to paraphrase it. At the end of my life, I want to be completely in alignment with who I want it to be. It's all too often who you want to be and who you are. That gap, the greater that gap is the regret and the shame. I want that to be in such complete alignment. And I am that person right now. And I just got to continue doing it. And when this is all said and done, we're going to donate millions of dollars to charity from Harder Than Life. And we will make a difference. So Siegel will no longer mean I got you drunk and passed out. It's going to mean we lifted you up and we inspired you and we educated you and we motivated you that life can be different. And it happens every day, Mitzi. I get a message a day, at least, from somebody saying, thank you. Today I didn't drink because of you. Or I'm going through a really tough time and I'm answer every one of them. That's why in the book I put my email. If you are going through a tough time and you need somebody, I'm not a therapist, but I can listen, but I'm also going to give you requirements that I ask you to do. And if you don't do it, that's the end of us talking. It's it. There's no free rides here. If you want to make change, I'm going to give you, and it's simple things. And if you can't do those simple things, you're not ready, but you can come back to me when you are ready. But I'm here to make the wood pile a little bit higher, and eventually we're going to go really high.
Wouldn't it be great if everybody had that mindset instead of judging and cutting people down? We just all wanted to lift one another up. Like there's enough room for everybody up here. It's
And
not
we're going
like
to,
life is not, I would say this, life is not a pie. There is no limit. There's enough for everyone. There's enough joy
there,
for everyone. There's enough love for everyone. There's enough success. There's enough money. There's enough everything for everyone.
I want to put this note that I just wrote down defining intentional. Intentional defined as what you do on purpose to fulfill your purpose.
Mm.
But when you call me intentional, it's the biggest compliment you could ever give me. So that every decision I make, every single thing I do is to advance the brand so we can monetize it and write big checks to charities. And make no mistake about it, we have three charities chosen this year. It's two children's charities and one narcotics, Families Against Narcotics. We're going to write big checks at the end of this year for me being inspirational, motivational, and doing what I do and keep lifting people up. And they say that there's one percenters and there's 99% of the world doesn't get it. We're going to get it to two. And we're just going to help one person every day until that stacks. If you know the rule of 78s, they just compound over the year.
Yeah,
At one point, this thing will be international, and that's all that I can do.
I
That's
love
what I'm
that.
put on this earth to do, is to show people that it can be done.
That's a huge blessing. You are a blessing to the world. Yeah.
A portion of the proceeds will go to charity, and we will put it on social media. And they will see, because this is not that I need to say. I exude authenticity. I don't need anything else. I got a house in Florida. I got a house in Michigan. I got a boat. I got a motorcycle. I got cars. I don't need anything else. I'm done.
What
My
kind of
footprint is
motorcycle do you ride?
a Harley, of course.
Ah,
It's the loudest Harley you'll ever see. It's all blacked out. I love black. Black is everything. And
okay.
any color you want, but as long as it's black. And I like pink too,
Nice.
but I would look weird driving around a pink Harley. So
I have a pink helmet.
I have a pink helmet for my daughter.
So tell me about your blessings. What are your greatest blessings?
My greatest blessings are the gift of my oration, my mind, and how quickly I'm able to think. My sister, we have different fathers, and she always says, "You're the one with the brains." And so I thank God every day for the ability to discern things in my life. Sometimes is if you talk to my work family, they will tell you it is not a gift all the time, because I will start talking and I am mid sentence or mid story, and I forgot to explain people everything up until that point because my mind thinks so fast. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for my health, both physically and mentally. And I'm grateful for the whatever this higher power is, whether you call it God, whether you call it universe, whether you call it source, that keeps aligning things to make me happy. Because things happen that you can't explain. And I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? And it just keeps happening. So those are the things that I'm most grateful for. And it's really still boils down to my health. Keep me healthy, and I'm going to do great things for everybody.
Yeah. All right. My favorite question to ask people is what's the most important thing?
Love.
I'm not surprised by that answer.
Yeah, it's if you read any of the Buddhist monks, they say everything's love. You're supposed to love
Oh, yeah.
everything. You love that we are talking to each other in different states on this amazing
Yeah.
computer.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, life is just
I
so
know. There's so
I
many
do love
miracles. You just have to notice them. It's so
everything.
cool.
Everything.
I think my favorite quote from the book is you said, I'm paraphrasing, but tell me it's impossible and I'll do it twice and write a book about it.
Absolutely. Impossible only describes the degree of difficulty. I am possible. It says it right in there. I am possible.
Yeah,
So
I love that. Oh my gosh.
thank you
Well,
for that, by the way.
you're welcome. And thank you for spending all this time and opening up your heart. And I think people should read the book because you get into a lot more details of things that happened in your childhood that are very tough to hear, but I think valuable to go through. And so it makes you think about things in your own life. And
Don't forget, we have a podcast that goes every week. We're on episode 7, Harder Than Life. It's available on YouTube. It's available on Spotify and iTunes. You go to harderthanlife.com. You can book us for speaking engagements. You can buy the book. You can order hats, and you can hear the podcasts. Come on over and check us out. We have some fun, outrageous stories. I have all different guests on that are wild and crazier than me. We're going to get you on the podcast, I promise. And I look forward to turning the tables because your
oh,
questions were
geez.
so good.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to
This
get a
was,
hat. I'm super excited about that.
I will
I didn't
get
know
you
you
the
had
hat.
swag on the website. I'm doing
Yeah,
that.
I just got them. I appreciate it. This was a blast, Betsy. Thank you. I love you. Have a great weekend. Be safe.
Thank
It's
you.
funny because we're recording this on St. Patty's Day.
Yep.
St. Patty's Day, it was used to be my favorite day to day drink. And
Yep.
what am I doing today? I'm spending it with friends out on the water. Just be
Nice.
in love.
I love it. Beautiful. Thanks,
Uh,
Kelly.
Thank you.